On my orders, the United States military has begun strikes against Al-Qaeda terrorist training camps and military installations of the Taliban regime in Afghanistan. And so my message to the people of Afghanistan is take a look at this building. It's a big, solid, permanent structure which should represent the commitment of the United States of America to your liberty.
Why every empire failed in Afghanistan? The British Empire couldn't do it. The Soviet Union couldn't do it. The United States couldn't do it. Three of the strongest powers in history walked into the same land with confidence, strong plans, and full belief that they would succeed where others had failed. Each one believed it had better strategy, better tools, and better control than those before it. They came with resources, planning, and global reach that had already proven successful in many other regions. And yet, all of them walked out without control. At first, this feels confusing. These empires ruled large parts of the world. They had trained soldiers, strong systems, and powerful weapons. They had experience in winning wars again and again. They had strong leadership and deep planning systems. So how did they all fail in one place? Most people think the answer is simple. They say the people are too difficult to control. They say resistance is the only reason. But that is only part of the story. Resistance alone does not explain repeated failure across centuries. The real answer starts with something deeper, something that has not changed for thousands of years: the land itself. And once you understand the land, everything else starts to make sense. This is not just a story about war, it is a story about limits, pressure, and the quiet strength of geography that shapes every decision made on the ground. Once armies enter, they realize control is not just about power, it is about survival, patience, timing, and the ability to adapt again and again under pressure. Afghanistan sits in a very important location. It connects South Asia, Central Asia, and the Middle East. For centuries, traders, armies, and empires have passed through this land. It has always been a bridge between regions, cultures, and economic routes. Because of this, controlling Afghanistan has always looked like a smart move. It offers access to nearby regions and important trade routes. It creates a path for influence, expansion, and strategic advantage. Any empire that wants to grow sees it as a key position on the map. But maps can be misleading. They show borders and distances, but they do not show difficulty. They do not show how hard it is to move, survive, and stay in control over long periods of time. Once armies enter Afghanistan, they quickly realize that this land is very different. It is not open and easy. It is broken, divided, and full of natural barriers that slow everything down. This is where confidence slowly turns into struggle, and plans begin to fall apart. What looked simple from far away becomes complex on the ground. Every step forward requires more effort than expected, and every decision carries risks that were not clear before. Armies begin to react instead of controlling the situation, and that shift changes everything. Mountains shape the battlefield. Afghanistan is covered with massive mountain ranges, especially the Hindu Kush. These mountains are high, steep, and extremely difficult to cross. They divide the country into separate regions, making movement slow, risky, and unpredictable. Instead of wide roads, there are narrow passes. Some are so tight that only a few soldiers can move together at once. Tall cliffs rise on both sides, creating natural traps where armies can easily be attacked without warning. For an invading army, this creates serious problems. Large forces cannot move freely. Heavy machines cannot travel everywhere. Tanks and vehicles lose their advantage because the land does not support them. Imagine soldiers walking in a long line through a narrow path, surrounded by cliffs, with enemies watching from above. A small attack from the high ground can stop the entire movement within seconds. There is no space to escape and no easy way to respond effectively. There is fear in every step. Soldiers cannot see what is ahead. They cannot predict danger. Even a simple movement becomes stressful and slow under constant uncertainty. This gives defenders a major advantage. They know the land. They know where to hide, where to wait, and when to strike. They attack and disappear before a response can come, making it difficult to maintain control. The land decides how the battle is fought, not the army. The weather in Afghanistan makes everything harder. Winters are long, cold, and very harsh. Snow blocks roads and closes important mountain paths. Entire regions become isolated for weeks at a time. Temperatures can drop so low that survival becomes difficult. Equipment freezes. Weapons stop working properly. Vehicles fail without warning, creating additional problems for soldiers already under pressure. Even simple movement becomes dangerous. A short trip can turn into a long and risky effort. Plans fail because of weather conditions alone, even before any enemy action takes place. Communication becomes weak. Units get separated. Support cannot reach on time, leaving groups isolated and vulnerable. Storms reduce visibility and slow everything down. Soldiers lose direction. Even experienced teams struggle to stay organized and maintain control. While foreign forces struggle, local fighters are more used to these conditions. They move faster, adapt better, and survive with fewer resources, giving them a natural advantage. Nature keeps adding pressure every day, slowly weakening any army that is not prepared for it. This pressure never stops and affects every part of the mission from start to finish. Supply lines always break. Every army needs supplies. Food, fuel, ammunition, and medical support keep soldiers active and effective over long periods. In Afghanistan, supply lines are very hard to maintain. Routes are long, narrow, and dangerous. Most paths go through mountains, where movement is slow and exposed to attack. Imagine a convoy moving through a narrow valley. It stretches for miles. If one vehicle is attacked or blocked, everything behind it stops instantly, creating a chain reaction of delays. These delays can last hours or even days. During this time, soldiers receive nothing and must continue under pressure without support. Food becomes limited, fuel runs low, equipment cannot be repaired in time, increasing risk at every level. Each delay creates bigger problems. Small issues grow into serious weaknesses over time and reduce the effectiveness of the entire force. Protecting supply routes also requires more soldiers. This spreads forces thinner and creates more weak points across the system. Over time, the entire structure begins to weaken without a single major battle being lost. The system slowly breaks down from inside. Time works against armies. There is another factor that slowly changes everything: time. At the start, armies are focused and motivated, plans are clear, goals feel possible, but as months turn into years, things begin to change. Soldiers grow tired, long deployments affect both body and mind, being far from home creates stress that builds slowly but never fully goes away. Back home, people begin to lose interest, support for the war becomes weaker, questions start to rise about cost, purpose and results. Leaders feel this pressure. They have to explain why the war is still going on. They have to show progress even when progress is slow or unclear. This creates a gap between plans and reality. Decisions become more difficult, mistakes become more costly. Over time, small problems begin to add up. Equipment wears out, repairs take longer, mistakes increase as pressure builds. Soldiers begin to focus more on survival than on mission goals. This slow shift changes how decisions are made on the ground. What once felt controlled now feels uncertain. And once that change begins, it is very hard to reverse. For local fighters, time works in the opposite way. They do not need quick victory, they only need to continue. They wait, observe, and strike when needed. As time passes, the balance slowly shifts. What started as strong control turns into a long struggle to maintain presence. In 1839, the First Anglo-Afghan War began. The British Empire entered Afghanistan to secure its position near India and protect its influence in the region. At first, they moved with confidence. They captured Kabul and placed their own ruler in power. It looked like success from the outside, but resistance grew quickly and spread across regions. Local fighters used the mountains to attack and disappear. The British struggled to respond effectively. Their army was far from home, supply lines were long and weak. Then came the retreat from Kabul in 1842. Thousands of soldiers and civilians tried to escape through mountain paths during winter. They faced constant attacks along the way. Very few survived. It became one of the worst disasters in British military history and clearly showed how dangerous the land could be. Soviet Union repeats mistake. In 1979, the Soviet-Afghan War started. The Soviet Union entered Afghanistan with modern weapons, tanks and helicopters. They expected a quick victory and fast control. At first, they captured major cities and supported a local government. But the same problems appeared again. Mountains limited movement. Local fighters used small, fast attacks. They avoided large battles and focused on long-term pressure. The war dragged on for nearly 10 years and became costly. Resources were drained. Soldiers faced constant stress and harsh conditions far from home. In 1989, the Soviet Union withdrew after heavy losses and growing pressure. United States Long War. In 2001, the war in Afghanistan began. The United States entered after the September 11th attacks with strong military power and global support. Early success came fast. Key areas were taken. The ruling group was removed. But holding control became the real challenge. Mountains, distance and supply problems remained. Opposition forces avoided big battles. They used small attacks over long periods of time, slowly weakening the system. The war continued for years and became one of the longest conflicts in modern history. In 2021, after nearly 20 years, the United States withdrew. If you enjoy simple, clear history like this, subscribe for more.